Some interesting news is developing as it concerns IWGP Intercontinental Champion Chris Jericho and his relationship with not only New Japan Pro Wrestling, not only WWE, but also his relationship with his friend Don Callis' Impact Wrestling. Before we get to this news, however, I do want to ask, if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything we do at Spoiler Free Wrestling. Also, if you can follow me on Twitter, I am attempting Twitter. I don't tweet a lot, but if you guys follow me, I promise I will start. So, I'm at Ian is a good dude, because I'm a good dude, or I try to be at least. Okay, so let's talk about Chris Jericho. So, there is some speculation right now that Vince McMahon was not happy that Jericho had his second match in New Japan Pro Wrestling with Tetsuya Naito. Now, Jericho does not have a contract with WWE at the moment, so legally, he's free to do whatever he wants. Now, we know he's got some type of deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but Jericho is the kind of guy that does not let anything get out that he doesn't want to get out. So now Dave Meltzer sent out this tweet recently indicating that things between Vince or WWE and Jericho aren't as secure as maybe they had once thought to be. Now Jericho, responding to a fan on Twitter here, now, this fan just said, Jericho has been adamant about not wrestling on American soil in an independent capacity. Well, Jericho has said that he won't wrestle on American soil, or really North American soil, for a company other than WWE, other than the one that's run by Vince McMahon. However, when somebody asked him about his feelings on this recently, and this was just on July 19th, so this was a week ago he said this, and he responded to this with, people change their minds. So has Chris Jericho changed his mind about only competing for WWE on North American soil? It definitely appears to be the case. So a fan a few days ago asked Jericho if he would be interested in wrestling Kazuchika Okada. Of course, Chris Jericho, very interested in wrestling Kazuchika Okada. Now, in terms of the super card, the G1 super card in Madison Square Garden next April, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling have booked Madison Square Garden. Now, seemingly, Jericho competing in Madison Square Garden for a company other than WWE, based on his previous comments, would be completely out of the question. However, somebody asked him about it on Twitter recently, and Jericho just responded with, sort of suggesting that he is open to the idea. Now, as I had mentioned at the top of this video, even Impact Wrestling is in play for the services of Chris Jericho. Now, why is that? Well, Impact Wrestling isn't the same Impact Wrestling that it was even last year. Impact Wrestling has always been run by the Jeff Jarretts, to the Dixie Carters, to the Vince Russos. That's not the case anymore. Impact Wrestling is now run by Don Callis, the former Cyrus in ECW, the color commentator for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's now the vice president, along with Scott D'Amore and some Ed Nordholm from Anthem Sports and Entertainment. Now, Slammiversary was in Toronto on Sunday. I'm also in Toronto. I was at Slammiversary. Some of you have said you even saw me in the crowd. I was there. And I gotta tell you, I've never been to a TNA or Impact show before in my life. Sunday was amazing. Slammiversary was a hell of a show. Pentagon versus Sami Callihan was incredible. So, another person that was watching Slammiversary on Sunday night was Chris Jericho. And he tweeted out the following, that he's watching Slammiversary and it's a great show so far. Okay, but, I mean, Jericho wouldn't go to Impact Wrestling, would he? Even though Don Callis, his friend Don Callis, who who helped set up the Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho match in the Tokyo Dome this year. Well, when somebody asked him on Twitter if he would be interested in going to Impact Wrestling, Chris Jericho didn't hesitate. He responds back, of course I would go to Impact Wrestling. Another note concerning Chris Jericho and Impact Wrestling is Impact Wrestling will be taking part in Chris Jericho's cruise in October. There will be Impact Wrestling stars on the cruise, on Chris Jericho's cruise. Now, Don Callis, who I'm a big fan, you gotta love Don Callis. So he was in Toronto promoting Slammiversary, and they had a press conference over at Real Sports. I attended it. By the way, I'm a writer over at SEScoops.com. If you're looking for more content that I do, I cover New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling for SEScoops.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. So I got a chance to ask Don Callis about some talent he'd like to bring into Impact Wrestling. It was during a Scrum interview. All I said was, "Hey Don, can you give us some idea of some of the talent you want to bring into Impact Wrestling in 2018?" He looked at me and with he was deadpan serious. Wait, I don't know if that made sense. He seemed serious, but Don Callis pretty much always comes off as Don Callis. I don't know if there's a difference between him and the character you see on TV. I don't even know if he knows that. But anyway, he said to me, "There's a young Canadian kid I like. We'd love to sign him. His name is Kenny Omega. Another is Chris Jericho." So we know that Impact Wrestling has been trying to strike a talent sharing arrangement with New Japan Pro Wrestling. They were able to strike a deal for Taiji Ishimori. However, Taiji Ishimori had already been in Impact Wrestling when he signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it's not a case of Don Callis came in and said, "I want this guy. Can we borrow him?" And they said yes. This was something done during contract negotiations. Conan on his podcast has said that Impact is having a bit of a hard time getting a talent sharing agreement with New Japan Pro Wrestling in place. This is largely due to New Japan Pro Wrestling's relationship with Ring of Honor and a failed relationship that the company had with the former TNA Wrestling back in the Dixie Carter era. Kazuchika Okada was actually on excursion to TNA, and he didn't really do much, so they were kind of upset by that. So lots of reason to be excited about what Chris Jericho might do next. Is he going to be on the G1 Supercard? Is he going to appear in Impact Wrestling? Is he done with WWE? It certainly sounds like there has been something gone on behind the scenes that has sort of fractured or at least strained the relationship between Chris Jericho and WWE, and that should be positive news for fans of Chris Jericho and fans of non-WWE wrestling. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm really far behind on the G1, which is why I haven't set up any updates. I had 3 days of Impact, and I'm like 2 or 3 days behind on the G1. Certainly a lot of talk going on as it concerns the firing squad's action in that tournament. Hopefully I'll be back soon with an update on that once I get caught up. Please follow me on Twitter. That's at Ian is a good dude. I try to be a good dude. I like to think I'm successful. But thank you very much, everybody, for supporting this show and this YouTube channel. Hopefully YouTube will approve our partner applications soon. Thanks very much, guys. I'm the Guy from Spoiler Free Wrestling.